Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by KringlesChristmas.com, home of Comet's Choice premium reindeer food. Reindeer tested, Santa approved. Tonight, we're diving into an evergreen Christmas.
Oh, this sounds like a good one.
Get cozy, grab a mug of hot cocoa, and settle in as we take a journey through this heartwarming Christmas tale.
Sounds delightful. I'm ready to be transported.
All right, let's begin.
Okay.
The forest was a world of secrets, where sunlight danced through a canopy of green in the warmer months, and moonlight painted silver paths across the snow in winter. I was one among many at Evergreen, standing tall and proud of my needles, drinking in the crisp air of December.
I can just imagine.
The forest had been my home for as long as I could remember.
Right.
My roots had grown deep into the frozen ground, my branches stretched wide to greet the sky. The whispers of the wind were my constant companion, carrying stories from distant lands and weaving them into the rustle of pine needles.
I love that imagery.
The days were quieter in winter, but they were no less alive.
Yep.
Snow blanketed the ground in a soft hush, muffling the footsteps of rabbits and the distant cries of an owl searching for its prey.
Right.
I loved the stillness, the way
Yeah.
time seemed to slow, allowing me to feel every shift in the air, every snowflake that settled on my branches. Life was simple, predictable,
Peaceful.
but deep in my heartwood, a small, persistent longing had taken root.
Oh.
Each winter, I'd heard the older trees speak of a different kind of life.
Really?
They told tales of their brothers and sisters who'd left the forest to become Christmas trees. Their voices, creaky and wise, would rise like wind through the pines as they shared what they knew.
I bet.
It is an honor, an ancient fir had said once, its bark grooved and weathered by centuries. To be chosen is to become more than a tree. It is to be a symbol of joy, love, and hope.
Wow. That's beautiful.
I couldn't imagine anything greater.
Right.
The weeks of winter had passed slowly, each snowstorm settling a deeper blanket of white over the forest. Then one morning the air carried something new, something electric.
Oh.
I felt it before I saw them. The earth vibrated faintly. A rhythm of boots crunching through the snow, the heavy scrape of sleds being dragged.
So they were coming?
The humans were coming.
Oh, wow.
Brace yourselves. A nearby spruce whispered, its needles trembling with anticipation.
I can just imagine.
I stood straighter, my branches arching proudly.
Ah.
The stories had told me what this moment would mean. This was the day some of us would be chosen.
Right.
My heartwood thrummed with nervous energy.
Yeah.
I felt exposed and vulnerable, wondering if I would be good enough. Were my branches strong? Were my needles green enough, full enough?
All those worries.
The voices drew closer, a mix of laughter and conversation.
Right.
I could see them now, figures wrapped in scarves and jackets, their breath clouding the air as they moved through the trees.
I bet.
They carried saws that glinted in the pale morning light, their sharp teeth ready to slice through our trunks.
Oh.
The younger trees around me quaked in fear, their thin branches shivering under the weight of the snow.
Makes sense.
But I wasn't afraid.
Brave little tree.
The humans moved through the forest, slowly stopping to examine each tree.
Right.
They pressed their gloved hands against trunks, shook branches to test their strength, and spoke in voices that rose and fell like the winter wind. Some trees were marked with ribbons, others passed by without a second glance.
So they were being picky.
I held my breath, figuratively, of course, hoping, no willing to be noticed.
Yeah.
When they reached me, a man with a red knit hat stopped and tilted his head.
Okay.
"What about this one?" he asked, brushing snow from my branches with a gloved hand.
Ooh, exciting.
His touch was firm but gentle, like the first rays of sunlight after a storm. A woman joined him, her cheeks pink from the cold. She stepped back to look at me fully, her eyes thoughtful.
Right.
"It's beautiful," she said. "The shape is perfect and the branches are strong."
Sounds promising.
The man nodded, reaching for the saw slung over his shoulder.
Okay.
"This one, then."
Oh.
I felt the first bite of the saw against my trunk, a strange sensation that was neither pain nor discomfort.
I wonder what that felt like.
It was change and ending and a beginning all at once.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As my roots loosened from the earth, I swayed slightly, the wind rushing through my branches one last time. The forest around me seemed to hold its breath, the other trees watching silently as I fell.
It's like they were saying goodbye.
I didn't hit the ground hard.
Oh, good.
They caught me, lowering me gently onto a sled.
Okay.
As they began to pull me away, the older spruce called after me.
Oh.
"Remember, young one?" It said, its voice like the creak of a frozen branch. You are more than wood and needles now. You are a bearer of light.
Wow.
I clung to those words as the sled carried me away, my branches brushing into snow.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The journey from the forest was a blur of motion and sensation.
Yeah.
The sled bumped and jostled along the path, the wind whistling through my branches and sending tiny snowflakes spinning into the air.
Right.
I caught glimpses of the world beyond the trees. A river, frozen solid fields stretching endlessly under a blanket of snow. A barn with its roof sagging under the weight of winter. The humans tied me onto the back of a truck with other trees, our branches packed tightly together.
You okay?
We whispered to each other during the ride, our voices blending with the hum of the engine. Where do you think we're going? Asked a young pine, whose needles were still soft and pliable.
I bet they were all wondering.
To become Christmas trees, an older fir replied, its voice filled with pride. We'll be wrapped in lights and adorned with ornaments. We'll be the heart of the season.
Oh, how exciting.
The thought filled me with a mix of excitement and trepidation.
Yeah.
What if I wasn't chosen? What if I wasn't good enough to bring joy to someone's home?
I can understand that worry.
I pushed the doubts aside and focused on the journey. The truck rumbled on, carrying us closer to our destinies. When we arrived at the lot, the world was transformed.
Oh.
Twinkling lights hung from poles, casting a golden glow over the rows of evergreens.
I bet it was beautiful.
The scent of hot cocoa drifted through the air, mingling with the sharp, clean smell of pine.
I love that smell.
Children darted between the trees, their laughter rising like the song of birds, while parents examined each trunk and branch with care.
I bet the kids were excited.
I was propped upright in a neat row, my branches still stiff from the journey.
Right.
Around me, families wandered with wide eyes, their boots crunching on the snow-packed ground. Look at this one, a child would call, tugging their parent toward a tree. What about that one? Another voice chimed in, pointing toward a towering spruce.
They all want the perfect tree.
The hours passed, and one by one my companions were chosen.
I bet that was hard to watch.
I watched as they were wrapped in netting, carried off to new homes, where they would become part of someone's Christmas story.
Yeah.
I waited, my heart pounding with anticipation. Would someone see me? Would I be the tree that spoke to them, that whispered of magic and memories waiting to be made?
Oh, the suspense.
As the sun dipped lower in the sky, I began to wonder if I would be left behind.
I bet.
But then I saw them.
Oh.
The family wasn't like the others.
Really? How so?
They weren't polished or perfect, with coordinated coats and carefully planned outings. They were warm, real. The father had a lopsided hat and a smile that reached his eyes. The mother's scarf trailed behind her, dusted with flour as if she'd been baking just before they arrived.
I bet they were making cookies.
The children, one boy and one girl, bounded through the lot, their voices spilling over with excitement.
So full of Christmas cheer.
Slow down, Tommy. The mother called as the boy darted between the rows of trees.
I bet.
Emily, stay close. The father added his voice, patient but firm. The little girl, Emily, stopped in front of me, her mittened hand reaching out to brush one of my branches.
Oh.
What about this one? She asked, her voice filled with wonder.
Whoa.
The family gathered around, their faces lighting up as they looked me over.
I bet.
The father crouched to inspect my trunk, nodding in approval.
Okay.
It's just the right size, he said. The mother smiled, her eyes warm. It's perfect. She agreed.
Sounds like a good match.
Emily beamed, her cheeks rosy from the cold.
Yeah.
I love it, she said simply.
Oh.
And just like that, I was theirs.
Wow.
As they carried me to their car, I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the hot cocoa stand or the twinkling lights.
I bet.
It was the warmth of belonging, of knowing that I had been chosen to be part of something magical.
That's lovely.
The forest was behind me, but a new story was beginning, one that I couldn't wait to tell.
That's a great place to stop for today.
Yes, it is. Let's pick it back up here tomorrow with Chapter 2, The Family Who Chose Me.
I can't wait.
Me neither. See you then.
I'm ready for more of this heartwarming story.
All right, let's jump back in with Chapter 2, The Family Who Chose Me.
Perfect.
The Johnson family arrived in a flurry of cold air laughter and the unmistakable sound of squabbling siblings.
Sounds about right for a family at Christmas time.
From my spot in the Christmas tree lot, I could feel their energy ripple through the crisp winter air, stirring the rows of evergreens as though we, too, were eager to see who would be chosen. My branches tingled with anticipation.
Yeah.
The family seemed different from the others. Messier, yes, but also warmer, like a patch of sunlight breaking through winter clouds.
Oh, that's lovely.
Tommy, stop stepping on my boots. The little girl shrieked her voice, carrying through the rows like the tinkling of sleigh bells.
I can just imagine.
I'm not stepping on your boots, Emily. Her brother shot back his words, muffled by the oversized scarf wrapped around his face.
Right.
All right, that's enough. The father said, his voice steady but tinged with weariness. His hat was askew, and the red knit scarf around his neck trailed behind him like a misplaced ribbon. Let's find a tree before you two start a snowball fight.
Sounds like a good plan.
Emily stuck her tongue out at Tommy, who responded by kicking a clump of snow at her boots.
Oh, those kids.
Their mother, trailing slightly behind, was adjusting her coat, a smudge of flour still visible on her cheek.
I bet she was baking.
She had the look of someone who had been pulled away from a flurry of baking cookies, no doubt, by the need to complete the holiday ritual of choosing the perfect tree. Let's pick something special, the mother said, her voice soft but firm. One that speaks to us.
I wonder if they'll pick our tree.
Speaks to them.
Yeah.
My needles quivered with the faintest rustle, as though urging the wind to carry a whisper their way.
Right.
I didn't know if I had a voice they could hear, but I hoped, oh, how I hoped they might notice me.
The suspense is killing me.
The family began their search, wandering through the lot as their boots crunched on the packed snow.
I bet.
The father paused to inspect a tall spruce.
Okay.
He gave the trunk a shake, watching as the branches swayed and sprinkled snow onto the ground. But about this one,
Oh.
Emily wrinkled her nose.
Uh-oh.
It's too tall. It won't fit in the living room.
Fair point.
Tommy gestured to a shorter, bushier tree nearby.
Okay.
What about this one? It looks like the tree from the Grinch.
Oh, no.
That's not a compliment. Emily shot back, crossing her arms. Kids focus, their mother said with a sigh, though there's a twinkle in her eye. We'll know the right tree when we see it.
That's a good attitude.
They continued moving down the row, their voices growing fainter as they passed. My heart would ached as they turned away. Would they overlook me? Would they find their perfect tree somewhere else?
Oh, I hope not.
But then Emily stopped.
Oh.
She had spotted me. What about this one? Emily asked, her mittened hand reaching out to brush one of my branches. Her touch was light, her mitten soft against my needles.
Well, I bet.
I straightened my trunk as much as I could, trying to look tall and proud.
So cute.
The rest of the family gathered around, their faces curious and thoughtful.
Right.
The father crouched to examine my base, his gloved hand brushing snow from the stand.
Okay.
It's a good size, he said. Not as tall as last year's tree, but that might actually be a good thing. It's perfect, the mother said, her voice warm. She tilted her head, studying me from a different angle.
Okay.
The shape is lovely, and the branches look strong.
Sounds perfect to me.
Tommy, less easily impressed, squinted at me. Are you sure it's not too skinny? What if it can't hold the ornaments? It can hold the ornaments, Emily said with a certainty that surprised even me.
Oh.
She stepped closer, looking at me with wide eyes.
Right.
I want this one.
She knew right away.
That settles it, the father said, standing and dusting snow from his knees.
Okay.
Let's get it wrapped.
I can't believe it.
I couldn't quite believe it. They had chosen me.
Me neither.
As the father signaled to one of the workers, my heart would thumped with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Was that how it felt to begin a new chapter?
Right.
To leave behind the familiar rows of trees for the unknown world of a family's home?
Yeah, it's a big change.
The worker arrived, whistling a cheery tune as he began wrapping me in netting.
I bet.
You got yourself a good one here, he said, giving my trunk a friendly pat. His words filled me with a sense of pride, even as the netting pressed my branches closer together.
Right.
The family watched as I was secured to the roof of their car. Emily bounced on her toes, her breath visible in the cold air. We got the best tree, she said, her voice bubbling with excitement.
I bet she was thrilled.
You always say that, Tommy muttered, though there's a hint of a smile on his face. Because it's always true, Emily replied, sticking her tongue out at him.
Classic Emily.
The car ride was a blur of motion.
Yeah.
Wind rushed past my branches, carrying with it the faint scent of chimney smoke and the distant sound of carolers. I caught glimpses of the world beyond the lot, a snow-covered park, a house with icicle lights blinking along the roof,
Right.
a child pulling a sled piled high with presents.
Right.
As the car turned onto a quiet street, I saw my destination for the first time.
Okay.
The Johnson house was small, but inviting, its windows glowing with soft golden light. A wreath hung on the front door, its red ribbon fluttering gently in the breeze.
Hmm.
I could feel the warmth of the home before I even crossed the threshold.
It already felt like home.
The family carried me inside with care, their laughter and chatter filling the cozy living room. The space was everything I had imagined. A fireplace crackled in the corner, casting flickering light onto the walls.
It sounds so cozy.
A garland draped across the mantel, dotted with tiny golden bells that jingled softly as the family moved past.
That's beautiful.
Over here, the father said, gesturing to a corner near the window. This is the best spot.
Okay.
They placed me in a sturdy stand, adjusting my trunk until I stood straight and proud.
Right.
As they stepped back to admire their work, I saw myself reflected in the wide living room window. My branches stretched toward the ceiling, my needles glinting faintly in the glow of the fireplace. I looked like I belonged here.
You did.
The mother spread a thick red tree skirt around my base, smoothing out the fabric until it lay perfectly flat. There, she said with a satisfied smile. Now we're ready for the fun part.
Okay, here comes the fun part.
The ornaments. Emily and Tommy shouted in unison, darting toward a large box in the corner.
I can just imagine.
That's the end of chapter 2.
Wonderful. Should we take a break or jump right into chapter 3?
Let's keep going. I'm eager to hear about the decorating.
Me too.
Okay, here's chapter 3. A living room of dreams.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
The Johnson living room was a world transformed. I'd been carried into a space brimming with warmth, where golden light spilled from a fireplace that crackled and hissed softly in the corner.
Sounds so cozy.
The air was fragrant, with the scent of cinnamon and fresh pine, mingling with the buttery aroma of cookies cooling on the kitchen counter.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
A garland twined around the mantel, dotted with tiny golden bells that jingled softly whenever someone walked past.
I bet it was beautiful.
Stockings hung neatly in a row, their edges embroidered with names. Tommy, Emily, Mom and Dad. My new home was more magical than I had ever imagined.
I bet.
This is perfect, Mom said, stepping back to survey the corner where they'd placed me. The tree stand was snug around my trunk, holding me upright with a firm steadiness I hadn't known since leaving the forest.
Right.
The red tree skirt at my base was thick and velvety, curling gently outward like a luxurious carpet. I'm not so sure, Dad said, crouching down to inspect my position.
Uh-oh.
He tilted his head, squinting at me as though solving a complicated puzzle.
Yeah.
I think it's leaning a little. It's not leaning, Mom replied, rolling her eyes.
Classic, Mom.
You always say that.
Dads are always worried about
It's
that.
because it always is, Dad muttered, giving the stand a final twist. He stood up, brushing his hands on his pants. There. Now it's perfect.
Okay, good.
The excitement of decorating filled the air like static electricity.
I bet.
Tommy and Emily darted toward a large box in the corner of the room, their voices overlapping in a chaotic chorus of enthusiasm.
I can just imagine.
The lights first, Tommy yelled, tugging at the tangled wires of a string of bulbs. I get to do the lights.
Of course.
Careful, Mom called, her voice tinged with concern as she followed them. Don't pull too hard. You'll break them.
Good advice.
I'm helping, Emily declared, grabbing the other end of the lights. A brief tug-of-war ensued, with neither child willing to relinquish control.
Yeah.
All right, Dad interjected, stepping between them and gently untangling the string.
Okay.
Tommy, you can help me hang the lights. Emily, you can pick where the first ornament goes.
Oh, that's a good compromise.
Satisfied with their assignments, the children retreated to their respective tasks, and the room settled into a rhythm of preparation.
I love that.
The lights came first.
Right.
Dad and Tommy carefully looped the string around my branches, the soft glow of each bulb illuminating my needles like tiny stars.
That's beautiful.
Their faces lit up as the lights twinkled to life, casting warm reflections on the windows. Tommy stepped back, grinning as he admired their work.
Yeah.
That looks so cool, he said, his voice tinged with awe.
I bet it did.
Emily, meanwhile, had opened the ornament box, her eyes wide with delight as she sifted through its treasures.
I bet there were some good ones in there.
Each piece seemed to carry a story, its colors and textures whispering tales of Christmases past.
I love that idea.
Start with this one, Mom said, handing her a delicate glass snowman. That's from Grandma. Be very careful.
Oh, that's sweet.
Emily held the ornament as though it were made of spun sugar, her small hands trembling slightly.
How cute.
She approached me with reverence, searching for the perfect spot to place it.
Right.
Right here, she whispered, hanging it on a low branch.
Okay.
It swung gently, catching the light in a way that made it sparkle.
Hmm.
That's perfect, Mom said, her smile softening as she watched.
It's a nice moment.
One by one, the ornaments found their homes among my branches.
Uh-huh.
There were shiny baubles in every color of the rainbow, their surfaces gleaming like drops of liquid light.
I bet.
Tiny figurines made of wood and fabric hung beside handmade crafts, the kind only children could create, with lopsided glitter and uneven edges that somehow made them more beautiful.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Tommy found a small wooden train and hung it near the center of my trunk.
Oh, okay.
"This one's mine," he announced proudly.
Oh.
Emily giggled.
Aw.
"You always say that." "Because it is!" Tommy shot back, crossing his arms.
Right.
"I got it when I was 3.
He's so proud of it.
"Well, I made this one last year," Emily said, holding up a star-shaped ornament covered in glitter.
Okay.
"And it's going right here."
Mm-hmm.
She placed it on one of my upper branches, stepping back to admire her work.
Uh-huh.
The decorating continued with joyful chaos.
I bet.
Mom unwrapped delicate ornaments from tissue paper, handing them out with careful instructions.
Right.
Dad worked on securing a particularly stubborn strand of garland, muttering under his breath about how it never stayed in place.
Classic.
Tommy and Emily raced to see who could hang more ornaments, their laughter filling the room like music.
I bet the tree loved that.
As the final ornaments were placed, Emily held up the glittering star that would crown my branches.
Oh, the final touch.
"I want to put it on," she said, bouncing on her toes.
Of course.
"Not yet," Dad said, grinning.
Uh-oh.
"The stars always last."
That's a good tradition.
"And we're ready now," Tommy said, his voice brimming with impatience. "Come on, let's finish."
Okay.
Dad lifted Emily onto his shoulders, holding her steady as she reached for my highest branch.
I bet.
The star gleamed in her hands, its surface catching the light in 1,000 tiny reflections.
That's beautiful.
She placed it gently, her face glowing with pride. "There," she said softly.
Uh-huh.
"It's perfect."
It sounds perfect.
The family stepped back to admire their work, the room falling silent as they took in the sight before them.
I bet it was beautiful.
My branches sparkled with light, each ornament a piece of their story, their joy, their love. The star atop my crown seemed to hum with energy, casting a faint golden glow over the room.
Yeah.
"It's beautiful," Mom said, her voice barely above a whisper.
Right.
"Best tree ever." Emily added, her eyes wide with wonder.
Aw.
"Even better than last year's," Dad said, nodding in approval.
I bet.
Tommy, who had been skeptical at first, finally smiled.
Okay.
"Yeah," he said, "it's awesome."
He came around.
The evening unfolded in a blur of cozy moments.
On-
The family gathered around me, their laughter and chatter filling the space like warmth from the fireplace.
Right.
They sipped hot cocoa from mismatched mugs, the marshmallows melting into frothy swirls. Mom read a Christmas story aloud, her voice rising and falling in a soothing rhythm.
Okay.
Emily leaned against Tommy's shoulder, her eyelids growing heavy as the story drew to a close. As the children drifted off to bed, Mom and Dad lingered for a moment, sitting together on the couch.
I bet.
The room was quiet now, save for the crackling of the fire and the soft hum of my lights.
Yeah.
They held hands, their faces reflecting the glow of the tree.
That's a sweet image.
"Another year," Mom said softly, her voice filled with a mix of nostalgia and hope. "Another perfect Christmas," Dad replied, squeezing her hand gently.
Oh.
They sat in silence for a while, their presence grounding me in a way I hadn't expected.
Whoa.
It wasn't just the decorations or the lights that made this moment magical. It was them, the family,
Yeah.
the love they shared.
It's all about the love.
As the night deepened and the house grew still, I stood in my corner, my lights casting faint patterns on the walls. Snow fell softly outside, painting the world in shades of white and silver.
I bet.
I thought about the forest I had left behind, the towering trees and the whispers of the wind.
Yeah.
It had been beautiful. Yes, but this was something else entirely.
It was a home.
Here I was more than a tree.
Right.
I was part of something larger, something alive and filled with meaning. My branches cradled memories, my lights illuminated laughter, and my star guided dreams.
That's
I
beautiful.
wasn't just witnessing Christmas, I was Christmas.
Wow.
And as the first rays of dawn began to creep through the window, painting the room in soft hues of pink and gold, I felt my heart would swell with quiet joy.
I bet.
This was my purpose. This was my home.
Oh, that was a wonderful chapter. I can really feel the love and warmth of the Johnson family.
Me too. It's beautifully written.
It is. It really captures the spirit of Christmas.
So what happens next? Are there more adventures in store for our evergreen friend?
Well, Chapter 4 is titled The Countdown to Christmas. So I'm guessing we're about to experience all the excitement and anticipation leading up to the big day.
Sounds like fun. Let's hear it. The way the author sets the scene for Christmas Eve, it's like a hush falls over the whole house.
Yes, that sense of anticipation is palpable. You can practically hear the snow falling outside and the soft whisper of anticipation within the house.
And the way the family gathers for one last story before bed, it's such a heartwarming tradition. It's a reminder of the simple rituals that create lasting memories.
Absolutely, and the story Mom chooses about magic and generosity, it subtly foreshadows the magical events that are about to unfold.
You're right, it's as if the story is setting the stage for the arrival of Santa, creating an atmosphere of wonder and possibility.
And speaking of Santa, his entrance is described so beautifully, it's understated, yet filled with a quiet power that speaks volumes.
That moment when Santa acknowledges the tree, calling it a good tree, it sent shivers down my spine.
Me too. It's as if he recognizes the tree's silent contribution to the magic of Christmas, the way it has held the family's love and joy within its branches.
It's a subtle but profound acknowledgement of the tree's role in creating a truly special Christmas for the Johnson family.
Shall we continue to the final chapter, A Return to the Forest?
Let's dive in.
Okay.
Christmas Eve descended upon the Johnson home like a soft blanket of snow, quiet and full of promise. Outside the world was a flurry of white peas, the steady snowfall transforming the street into a pristine wonderland.
Right.
Icicle lights twinkled along rooftops, their reflections dancing in the icy puddles below, while the occasional sound of carolers drifted through the air like a whisper of joy.
I bet it was beautiful.
Inside the house hummed with the quiet chaos of last-minute preparations. The living room was the center of it all, a space alive with the warmth of the season.
Okay.
I stood in my corner, bathed in the soft glow of my own lights, watching as the family scurried around me. The atmosphere was charged with excitement, and every movement carried the energy of anticipation.
I bet.
Emily darted through the room, clutching a plate of cookies piled high with chocolate chips and sugar sprinkles. Mom, where's the milk? She called, her voice echoing through the hall.
I can just imagine.
In the fridge, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Mom's voice floated back, tinged with a mix of amusement and exhaustion.
Oh.
Tommy lounged on the couch, twirling a red and white striped candy cane between his fingers.
Okay.
Do you think Santa's already flying around?
Yeah.
He asked, his tone half serious.
I bet he was excited.
Of course he is, Emily replied matter-of-factly, placing the plate of cookies carefully on the table near the fireplace.
Right.
But we have to make sure everything is perfect, or he might skip our house. Santa's not skipping our house, Tommy said, rolling his eyes. He's not going to pass up cookies like these.
Yeah, those cookies sound pretty good.
He reached for one, but Emily slapped his hand away.
Oh, boy.
They're for Santa, she scolded, glaring at him. Dad appeared in the doorway, holding a glass of milk in one hand and a carrot in the other.
Hey.
Here's the milk, he said, setting it down beside the cookies.
Uh-huh.
And this is for Rudolph.
Oh.
Just one carrot, Emily asked, frowning.
Oh.
What about the other reindeer?
She's got a point.
Dad chuckled. I think they'll manage Rudolph Kinchair. The family gathered around me, their faces glowing in the soft light of the tree.
I bet.
Mom settled onto the couch, smoothing her sweater as she opened a book of Christmas stories.
Okay.
All right, she said, her voice warm and inviting. One story before bed.
That's a nice tradition.
Emily climbed onto the couch beside her, clutching a stuffed reindeer to her chest.
Oh.
Tommy sprawled on the rug near my base, his legs stretched out and his hands behind his head. Dad brought a blanket, draping it over them as they all leaned in to listen.
Sounds so cozy.
The story Mom chose was familiar, a tale of magic and generosity of a star that guided travelers to a place where hope was born.
I love that.
Her voice carried the words, gently wrapping the room in a quiet stillness that felt almost sacred.
Right.
The only sounds were the crackle of the fire and the occasional rustle of pages as she turned them. Emily's eyes grew heavy as the story unfolded, her head resting against Mom's shoulder.
So sweet.
Tommy's usual energy faded, replaced by a rare stillness as he stared at the ceiling, lost in thought.
I bet.
Even Dad seemed to sink deeper into the moment, his hand resting lightly on Mom's arm.
It sounds like a perfect Christmas Eve.
When the story ended, the family sat in silence for a moment, as though savoring the magic of the tale. Then with a yawn, Emily stretched and slipped off the couch.
Okay.
We should go to bed, she said, rubbing her eyes.
Right.
Santa won't come if we're awake.
She knows the rules.
The children trudged upstairs, their excitement dulled by the weight of sleepiness.
I bet.
Mom and Dad lingered for a while, tidying the room and making sure everything was in place. Dad straightened the stockings above the fireplace, while Mom adjusted the star at my crown, her fingers brushing my highest branch with care.
Okay.
"This really is a good tree," she said softly, stepping back to admire me.
I bet she was proud of it.
Dad nodded, his gaze warm.
Uh-huh.
"I think it's our best one yet."
They really love that tree.
The room fell silent as they stood together, the faint hum of my lights filling the space.
Yeah.
Then, with a final glance around the room, they turned off the lamps and headed upstairs, leaving me to keep watch over the night.
Okay.
The house grew quiet, the only sounds, the faint ticking of the clock and the soft rustle of the snowstorm outside.
It must have been peaceful.
I stood in my corner, my lights casting a gentle glow that danced across the walls. The cookies and milk sat untouched on the table, the carrot waiting patiently beside them.
Right.
Outside the window, the snow fell steadily, blanketing the world in a peaceful hush.
Yeah.
It was a night filled with waiting. Waiting for Santa for the morning, for the burst of joy that would come with the dawn. But there was something more in the air, a kind of magic that went beyond the usual bustle of the season.
Oh, I bet.
It was the magic of connection, of a family bound together by love, laughter, and tradition.
That's the best kind of magic.
The hours passed slowly, but I didn't mind.
Mm,
I had never felt more alive.
I bet.
Sometime in the quietest hours of the night, something extraordinary happened.
Oh, what was it?
A faint jingling sound drifted through the room, so soft it might have been imagined. The air grew warmer, tinged with a sweetness that reminded me of candy canes and hot cocoa.
I bet.
And then there he was.
Santa.
He wasn't what I had expected, though I wasn't sure what I had imagined.
Right.
He moved with a quiet grace, his red coat dusted with snow that melted instantly in the warmth of the room.
Yeah.
His eyes sparkled with kindness as he approached the fireplace, his gloved hands reaching for the cookies and milk.
I bet.
He paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping over the room. When his eyes met mine, he smiled, a small, knowing smile that seemed to say he understood everything I had seen, everything I had felt.
I bet.
He stepped closer, his boots silent on the carpet, and reached out to touch one of my branches. His touch was light, but it carried a weight of gratitude, of recognition.
Right.
"Good tree," he murmured softly, his voice like a distant bell.
Oh, wow. That gives me chills.
I glowed a little brighter, my lights flickering in response.
That's a beautiful moment.
Christmas Day had come and gone, but the magic lingered in the Johnson home.
I bet.
Laughter still echoed in the corners, and the scent of cinnamon and pine clung to the air.
Yeah.
I stood in my corner, my lights dimmed now, but my heart would filled with the glow of the holiday joy I had been part of. The family moved through the days that followed with a sense of calm, their footsteps lighter after the whirlwind of presents and feasting.
Right.
They often passed by me with soft smiles, their fingers brushing my branches, as if to say, "Thank you."
They were so grateful for the tree.
Emily especially stayed close, sitting by my base as she read her new books or sorted her toys into neat piles.
Oh.
"You're my favorite tree ever," she whispered one afternoon, her voice like a secret meant only for me.
I bet the tree loved that.
The time came, as I knew it would, for the decorations to be gently removed.
That was a bittersweet moment.
The family gathered around me, their hands careful and deliberate as they lifted each ornament from my branches.
I bet.
Emily held up the glittery star that had crowned me.
Okay.
"This one's the best," she said, her voice full of reverence.
Right.
"It made the tree magic."
Ah.
"Every part of the tree made it magic," Mom replied, tucking the star into its box. "It's all about the love we put into it."
I love that.
One by one, the lights and ornaments disappeared, their absence leaving my branches bare, but still proud. I wasn't sad. I had done what I was meant to do, brought warmth and wonder to this family, made their Christmas shine brighter.
The tree had served its purpose.
That evening, as the house grew quiet, Dad carried me outside. The air was crisp, and snow blanketed the ground in shimmering white, the moon casting a silver glow over the world.
Sounds beautiful.
He laid me carefully on a sled, wrapping me in a blanket to keep my branches protected.
Right.
Emily and Tommy followed, their breath visible in the cold as they chattered excitedly.
Okay.
"Where are we taking the tree?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity.
I wonder where they're going.
Dad knelt to adjust the sled's blanket.
Uh-huh.
"Back to the forest," he said. "Every Christmas tree deserves to go home after it's done its job."
Oh, wow.
Emily tilted her head.
Okay.
"But it can't grow roots again, can it?"
Ah.
"No," Dad said, his voice soft. But the forest will welcome it back.
Right.
It'll find new ways to be part of the world.
Yeah, that's nice.
The journey through the snowy woods was magical.
I bet.
The sled glided easily over the frozen ground, its runners whispering through the silence.
Right.
The children's laughter rang out in bursts as they ran ahead, kicking up powdery snow.
Hmm.
Overhead, the stars twinkled brightly, their light shimmering on the icicles that hung from tree branches.
I bet it was beautiful.
When we reached the clearing, I recognized it immediately.
Okay.
It was the same place where I had stood before the family chose me, though now it was transformed.
How so?
The snow glistened like frost-tipped velvet, and the trees stood tall and proud, their branches heavy with crystalline snow.
Wow.
Dad and the children gently lifted me from the sled, placing me upright in the center of the clearing. My trunk rested against the soft ground, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the embrace of the forest around me.
Okay.
It was a quiet, welcoming feeling, as though the trees whispered, "You're home."
Oh.
As the family stepped back, something extraordinary happened.
How?
The air grew warmer, filled with a faint scent of pine and peppermint. A soft glow began to emanate from my branches, faint at first, but growing brighter with each passing moment.
That's amazing.
Tiny sparks of light danced around me like fireflies waltzing in the winter air.
I can just imagine.
The children gasped, their eyes wide with wonder.
I bet.
"Look!" Emily exclaimed, pointing as the glow began to swirl upward, forming ribbons of gold and silver that shimmered against the dark sky.
Wow.
Tommy stepped closer, his mouth hanging open.
Right.
Is the tree magic?
I think so.
Before their eyes, the glow condensed into a single radiant star above my crown.
Oh, wow.
It pulsed with warmth, casting light across the clearing and illuminating the faces of the family who had loved me so well.
That's beautiful.
The snow sparkled under its light, and the trees seemed to sway gently as though bowing in approval.
I bet.
From deep within me, I felt a voice, my voice rise into the air. Though it wasn't words the family seemed to understand.
I bet.
It was a song of gratitude, of joy, of the memories we had shared.
Right.
It was a promise that the love we had built together would last far beyond this season.
Yeah.
The magic didn't stop there.
Really?
As the family watched the star at my crown drifted upward, dissolving into 1,000 tiny points of light.
Wow.
They spread through the forest, touching each tree in turn. The pines and firs began to glow faintly, their branches catching the light, as though adorned with the stars themselves.
It's like the whole forest was glowing with Christmas spirit.
"It's like the whole forest is alive," Emily whispered, clutching her brother's hand. Tommy nodded, his usual bravado replaced by awe.
Right.
It's like Christmas didn't end.
I love that.
The light swirled around the clearing, weaving between the trees before returning to me.
Wow.
They settled gently on my branches, filling me with a sense of renewal of purpose. I no longer felt like just a tree.
Right.
I was part of something bigger now, part of the magic that made this season so special.
Yeah.
The family lingered for a while, their voices soft as they said their goodbyes.
I bet.
Emily knelt beside me, her mittened hands brushing my trunk.
Okay.
"Thank you, tree," she said, her breath visible in the frosty air.
Oh.
"You're the best Christmas tree ever."
She really loved that tree.
Mom and Dad smiled, their arms around each other as they looked at me one last time.
Right?
"You've made this Christmas unforgettable," Mom said, her voice filled with warmth. With one final glance, they turned and made their way back toward the house, their footsteps crunching softly in the snow. I watched them go, the love and gratitude they had given me, glowing brightly in my heartwood.
That's a lovely image.
As the forest grew quiet again, the magic around me began to settle. The glow from my branches softened, blending into the gentle light of the stars above.
Right.
I felt the presence of the other trees, their silent companionship wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I wasn't alone. The forest had welcomed me back, and I had returned with the stories to tell of laughter and love of the family who had chosen me, and of the magic we had created together. My role as a Christmas tree had ended, but my purpose had only just begun.
That's a great message.
The stars above seemed to wink in agreement, their light twinkling like tiny ornaments scattered across the sky.
I love that.
The wind whispered through the trees, carrying my story far and wide.
And as the snow fell softly around me, I knew that I would always be part of the magic of Christmas, part of the love that made it eternal.
Wow. That ending was both magical and profound. The image of the entire forest glowing with Christmas spirit is just breathtaking.
It is. It's like the tree's experience of love and belonging has transformed not only itself but the entire woodland.
And the way the tree finds its voice not through words but through a song of gratitude and joy, it's incredibly moving.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful expressions of love are the ones that go beyond language.
I also appreciate the way the story ends on a note of hope, even though the tree's time with the Johnson family is over. It finds a new purpose in the forest, spreading the magic of Christmas to all who cross its path.
It's a beautiful message about the enduring power of love and the interconnectedness of all things.
This story has been a true delight. It's a reminder that the spirit of Christmas can be found in the simplest of things, a shared story, a warm embrace, a moment of quiet contemplation.
Well said, and I think that's the perfect note to end our deep dive into An Evergreen Christmas.
Indeed, a truly heartwarming and thought-provoking journey.
Thanks for dropping by Kringle's Christmas Stories, and have a very Merry Christmas. Remember to get your Comet's Choice reindeer food at cometschoice.com.